Hello and welcome to the Pocket Size PR podcast, the podcast where pocket-sized pieces of PR wisdom are distilled and applied to real-life situations by communications professionals. I'm your host, Charlotte Nichols from PR agency Harvey & Hugo. And in the studio with me today, we have Hannah Duggleby. Hannah heads up marketing at Channel Studios and is a marketing guest lecturer at Gateshead College. Hi, Hannah.
Hello.
How do you define PR?
So it's a tricky one because it combines so many different things. But I would say it's about reputation and public image. But also a bit more than that, I'd probably say things like what you stand for, how you position yourself, your relationships, and even how you make people feel. And I would say that's true regardless of whether we're talking about sort of a brand of an organisation or a company, or obviously if it's your personal brand as well.
I love that sentence. It's about how it makes people feel. It's so true, isn't it? Yeah. Sometimes it's hard to describe as well the effects of PR or that a good brand can have on you because it is a feeling, and sometimes it's hard to explain feelings.
Yeah.
Thank you for that definition. How would you explain the difference between PR and marketing?
So if you'd asked me this probably 8 to 10 years ago, I would have said, oh, well, that's easy. I would have said PR is, creating a positive image for a company. And then I would have said marketing is sort of promoting or selling a specific product or service. But I think now, more recently, the lines have become a lot more blurred. I think PR can obviously be standalone, obviously be part of a marketing plan. It can be part of a brand strategy or even a comms plan. So it's so much more intertwined. And then I think elements of that were sort of previously within PR have sort of stepped out as well. So for example, nowadays you get sort of companies or even job roles that specialise specifically in reputation management, whereas previously that would just sit under that banner. So I think with all that in mind, I think that makes it so much more important for if you're working in quite a large organisation where they do split things out into different strands or use different agencies or different departments for different sort of things. I think it makes it so much more important to be aligned with those efforts and for everyone to be communicating and talking to each other so everyone knows what each other's doing, to be able to maximise those benefits of the activity a bit more.
Oh, that's another really good answer. Absolutely, because there's so many specialisms within it. But you are seeing agencies spring up. Another one is kind of personal branding, personal PR.
Absolutely,
that's a massive area at the minute. Yeah. And of course, that incorporates a lot of PR, but also marketing. So really good answer. Now, you've spent a lot of time in travel and hospitality. Now, that's often, people would think that's a glamorous industry to be in. Is that true?
You're right, yes. So I spent over 15 years working in travel and hospitality. So, quite a long time. And it can be really good fun. But I think what you find with not glamorous, definitely not glamorous, to answer the question. But I think what you will find is obviously because travel and hospitality, it's a 24/7 business. It's like an always-on operation. So it is very fast-paced. But because it is a lot of fun, I always say that when you're working in sort of this kind of role, when you're working with a product or a service that is quite interesting and you can be quite passionate about it, it makes your job so much easier as a marketing and PR professional talking about something that you can really get on board with and you enjoy, talking about and marketing. It makes your job a lot easier.
Oh, absolutely. And, this happened to me a lot when I told people I was in PR. This is, so do you just kind of talk to people with a glass of champagne all the time? And it's just like, no, I thought it was, that's why I got into it, but it's not. Yeah. Would you say your experience of kind of PR and marketing is glamorous in any way? Because, especially travel, you think, oh, you're on a cruise, doing some promotion of a cruise this month. Yeah. Was any of it like that?
There's obviously, perks, obviously working in travel, you definitely want to make the most of your staff discounts and things like that. I think in terms of, people probably do see PR and marketing as being quite glamorous, but I think a lot of people don't realise what goes into it. I think, a lot of people, especially nowadays, think, oh yeah, marketing, you just post, pretty pictures on social media and a bit of colouring in and that sort of thing. I heard that a lot. But obviously it's really not. And I think that working in marketing, you have to like spreadsheets just as much as finance people do.
That's a really good point. Yeah. And And sometimes you have to make it almost look, glamorous and fun, because that's part of the role. You're making your clients look good.
Yes.
But yes, that's a really important. Stats and reporting is so important.
Yeah, and planning and absolutely. There's so much more that goes into it behind the scenes that I think people that aren't in the industry just don't realise.
Yeah, well, you've totally shattered that glamorous illusion. Thank you, because it was a bit of a bugbear for me when people just say you just go out talking, you're at events, and just drinking was almost synonymous with it.
Yeah.
You've managed a lot of international campaigns. Is PR viewed differently in other countries?
So, this is only my personal opinion based on my experience, and particularly related to the B2B sector, which I got into later on. But I would say internationally, it's probably slightly further behind the UK.
Interesting.
Which is interesting because I know you've had a previous guest on that said something similar. So I was sort of thinking, oh, yes, well, that does align what I think as well, because it was just my personal opinion. And I think you'll see that sort of traditional magazine style publications are still a lot more popular internationally than I think what we see over here. And also in terms of things like LinkedIn, I think there hasn't been as much uptake yet in terms of LinkedIn internationally as what we see in the UK. So I think that's something that'll probably grow in time and we'll see a bit more of as well.
Oh, that's really interesting. I'm surprised at that as well. Because you've done work, is it in Australia and America? Yeah, you'd think that they are more digitally on it.
Yeah, maybe it's for some things, but that's what definitely in terms of LinkedIn, I would say.
Yeah, I did a market research trip a long time ago, over 10 years ago now. So again, it's outdated, but it was the same back then, 10 years ago. You were expecting to almost pick up on social media trends at the time, but actually we were ahead of the curve, which is strange considering a lot of the social platforms were invented over there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Unless they've got more of a personal use than commercial. But yes, it does also correlate with what another guest did say. What are the benefits that PR has brought to the firms that you've worked with?
So I would say additional opportunities. So I've seen this with sort of a couple of companies that I've worked with, and we've sort of doing the usual. You've got your press release, your press release goes out, you obviously get the coverage that you're probably expecting to achieve. But then because the sort of publications and journalists start to get to know your name, because obviously they've dealt with you on that press release and seen that, then we've had them come back and request interviews with key members of the team as well, which we wouldn't have had. That wasn't the initial goal of of the activity that we were doing. But we wouldn't have got it if we hadn't have done that activity. So I think it's those extra opportunities that you wouldn't get otherwise.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because if no one knows about you, they can't reach out to you.
Exactly.
It's all about developing that relationship with the journalists. They're really busy people. So if you have a company on their radar, it makes their life easier, saying I can always go to X for this sort of topic. Really good point.
So I think it is PR is a little bit of a slow burner, but I think once you do get that traction and you get that momentum, it does pick up fairly quickly after that.
Yeah, momentum was exactly the word I was going to use. It does take a while. It can be really frustrating at first. It could be really frustrating as a marketing or comms manager, as an agency as well, when people, because often they say you've got to make a really good impression first of all, but it's hard in PR because it takes so much work and time behind the scenes, and it can sometimes get kind of a couple of months in and saying, well, we haven't even seen anything yet. So this is like, there's loads of irons in the fire, it's going to come off, but you just got to wait for it.
Yeah, and I think nowadays people are very used to things being instant. They're not prepared to wait for things, not like maybe previously.
That is a really good point. And then constantly PR is compared in terms of results to digital marketing or, for example, PPC. They're just like, I place this ad, I'm already seeing effects. And it's just like, where I'm spending this amount on PR and I haven't seen any return at this moment in time. And it's just like, oh, you've just got to be patient, which is frustrating.
Yeah.
But it's a good point to raise. What's been your favourite PR campaign that you've worked on?
So I wouldn't say it's a favourite campaign, but in terms of my sort of favourite type of campaign, I quite like when you're able to get some quite local coverage, just because I think it's quite nice for I like it when internal teams who are obviously working in your business, your colleagues, and their sort of friends and family get to see the company they work for, or their, friends or whatever works for, in, the local press that they know about. And I think it sort of makes your internal team members feel a little bit proud to work for that company because they're seeing you, in the press of their local area.
Oh, that is really nice. A nice thing to say as well. Quite often, again, local regional coverage is underrated. We'll get a lot of businesses that we're working with say, we don't need to be known regionally. We need to kind of be in this certain trade magazine because that's what our audience buys. And fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. But we do always say that, it can be fantastic for friends and family to see. It's fantastic for recruiting local people, for just building that pride and goodwill amongst the team. So yeah, it's a really good point to add to that. What are the latest PR trends, do you think?
I mean, we couldn't not mention AI, I suppose, which I think has got a time and a place when used correctly.
Yeah.
But I think this sort of increase in very easily accessible content, some of which is correct, some of it's incorrect, truthful and not so much. I think because of that mass amount of content that's sort of now out there and that sort of trust issue, I think in terms of PR, I think the sort of authenticity that PR can bring, I think that'll be even more important because of that.
Oh, yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And what do you think is a PR activity that's overlooked by many people?
I think in general, PR can be a little bit overlooked because I think people think too much of PR in a traditional sense, and I think they're not sort of they're not educated on the bigger picture of all the benefits that PR can bring. So in terms of if they're just thinking perhaps press release and coverage in the newspaper or whatever because that's what they're used to seeing, but when you're sort of looking at it as a much bigger picture and you're thinking about sort of the fact that you're whatever you generate the can be repurposed across your social media channels. You obviously position yourself as the company's a thought leader, backlinks for SEO benefits and things like that. When you take all that into account, there's a lot more to it. But I think often people that aren't in the sector don't sort of realise that. So they've got a sort of much more limited view of it.
I agree. I think a lot of it can be subliminal, so it's not almost picked up, which is almost the beauty of it. But it does frustrate me when people just see PR as a press release. We're a press release company because, there's an art to so many things that we do.
Yeah.
And because it's subliminal, it sometimes goes unnoticed. But really good point. And to end, Hannah, you've been absolutely fabulous so far.
Thank you.
What is your top PR tip?
I would say use your data. So from my experience, companies that are sort of a bit reluctant to do PR is because they think that they haven't got anything to talk about that they deem as newsworthy. So they're thinking about things like, maybe it's investment or a new product launch or a new appointment in the team or something like that. But I think they need to be a little bit cleverer about what actually their news hook could be. And quite often that is the data that they hold within their organisation. So what I mean by that is, for example, if it was a consumer product based company, their news hook would be something talking about the data they've got in terms of sort of consumer spending trends and regional variations in that and things like that. If it was a recruitment company, obviously they have access to a lot of data on salaries and changes in sort of popularity of job roles and things like that, and using that as their news hook, if you like, rather than something that's going on in the company.
Love that. So powerful. We're telling our clients that all the time. And as well, a tip, if you don't think you are harnessing that much data, obviously there's research companies out there, but you can also gather your own through surveys.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that can create some fantastic marketing as well as PR. And also there's freedom of information that you can, the Freedom of Information Act, where you can contact local government, local councils for stats around certain areas that kind of strengthen the need for your products or services. That's also an untapped resource that's really powerful in creating good news stories.
Yeah, I think it's just thinking outside the box and being a little bit more creative to, you know, if you haven't got anything you think you need to talk about or you need to find something.
Absolutely. Love that tip to end on. So use your data.
Yes.
Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you.
Nobody can do business with you if they don't know about your business. But nobody will do business with you if your business's brand doesn't have trust and credibility. PR is the secret sauce in the marketing mix that can help achieve this and so much more. If you're interested in how PR can help your business, contact Harvey and Hugo, harveyandhugo.com, or email info@harveyandhugo.com.